a couple of years ago. And that was in the beginning just a small process, discussions between individuals. And that discussions among individuals then grew to discussions among organizations. And then it actually grew to discussions between communities. So it's quite powerful. It grew for over the past couple of years, and then it culminated this weekend in a kind of a summit. Now, at this specific summit, the group of Afrikaner organizations and the Thabo Mbeki Foundation met each other, and we discussed a whole range of things. But let me just start by saying is why this specific discussions, I think, progressed this well. And I think the reason was the fact that we started by saying that we differ from each other. We don't want to be the same. And what we say is, what we drive as is the principle of mutual recognition and respect. And the moment that we've started with mutual recognition and respect, then suddenly we could start to find each other, because then it's horizontal discussions. It's not vertical, it's not the state and us or any vertical process. It's a horizontal process trying to find each other. I think it was historic. And I think from a symbolic point of view to South Africa, it shows, yes, communities in South Africa can talk to each other. The fact is that the state is weakening at this stage. And because of the fact that the state is weakening, communities must now come to play and must work together and get into agreements and discussions, because our answer is not central anymore. Our answer lies within communities and the power of communities.
Dirk, if I remember correctly, that first talks you had, there was a lot of animosity in the beginning, in as much as that some of those talks were ended abruptly and people were fighting with each other. Coming to the point where you are now, that sounds like good news to the greater South Africa.
We must understand that there's no 100% agreement among the parties, not even this weekend. There was still big differences and so on, but that's the power of the specific process, is that it's a robust process. And in the beginning, the discussions, quite correctly, were absolutely robust, and we had big differences. And you must understand, we work from a long history. We have different stories to tell. We have different historical narratives and that we work from. And interesting enough is that in the first part, I found that the difference was actually a difference in narratives, because I work from a specific narrative. I tell my story, and then I came to certain conclusions. And when we went back and started to tell stories and about our histories, and we say, okay, let's first recognize that. And then we come to a point that we say, okay, now let's respect each other. And then we started to continue, because we recognize that we have different stories, we have different experiences, and but we have something in common. And the thing that we have in common is that we want to live here on the southern tip of Africa, and we want to prosper. And so we started to find each other. And the other thing that we developed in common in the past year or so is the fact that the state is weakening, and we agreed that we must find each other on that. The interesting thing is that we found each other on interesting things, like, for instance, mother tongue education and indigenous languages, alienation of Afrikaners, and then the broader communities in South Africa, which we found each other on practical agricultural projects. We found each other on, for instance, the chaos in the at different municipalities and how to address that. Because there's a lot of frustration among Afrikaners in South Africa, and there's specific Afrikaner issues that we've addressed. But then we found there's a lot of common issues that we can tackle together.
Dirk, talking about a state that's failing to deliver what they should deliver, you at Solidarity Movement, well known for the fact that you take the bull by the horns, you build Soltech, you are busy building Akademia, you are taking on court cases that's important for the rest of South Africa. You call it looking after yourself, but how can that notion be taken to be of greater advantage to the rest of South Africa?
The self-help concept was a central concept of all the discussions that we had. In fact, that was the concept that actually, I think we found each other. I have the document here that we've signed. And in this document, here at the end, we agreed on a word. And the word is Vuk'uzenzele. And that is a Xhosa word. And that word means, in short, wake up and do things yourself. And what we said at the end of the day, and that is what we must found each other on the idea of wake up and do things yourself, because no one of us can be dependent on government anymore. So the fact of the matter is the self-help idea, onsal self, actually was the idea where we actually found each other. The moment that we've realized that, listen, we can't be dependent on the central government anymore. We must move to community-based self-help projects. Then suddenly there was sense in it, and we try and we find ourselves the horizontal power versus the vertical power, and the horizontal self-help idea of communities. I think that was the big breakthrough in our discussions, was that we could find each other there.